Good morning, Excellencies, Ministers, Minister Shri Mulyani, senior officials from various countries, private sector representatives, ADB senior management and board members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ramesh Subramanyam. I am the Director General of the Asian Development Bank's Southeast Asia Department. It's my great pleasure to warmly welcome all of you to ADB's very first Southeast Asia Development Symposium. We had originally planned this symposium to take place this past March in Jakarta before the COVID-19 pandemic struck. But we are very happy that we can still gather today, even if virtually, to discuss and reflect on the challenges that are currently facing the region. We have an exciting lineup of speakers and panels today, and we hope that you will enjoy the day's events and find them useful. Let me first quickly share a few words about ADB President Masatsugu Asakawa, who will deliver the opening keynote speech shortly. President Masa is also the chairperson of ADB's board of directors, and prior to assuming office at ADB on 17th of January earlier this year, President Masa served as special advisor to Japan's Prime Minister and Minister of Finance and has close to 4 decades of experience at the Ministry of Finance, as well as international institutions with diverse professional experience that cuts across both domestic and international fronts. In the immediate aftermath of the global financial crisis, then in the Japanese Prime Minister's office, Mr. Asakawa was instrumental in orchestrating a globally coordinated financial package to abate the financial crisis, including a $100 billion loan from Japan to the International Monetary Fund. Most recently, as part of Japanese presidency for the G20 meetings, Mr. Asakawa has played a pivotal role for the success of the G20 Osaka Summit. Some of his outstanding achievements in Osaka include the endorsement by the G20 leaders of the G20 principles of quality infrastructure investment and the G20 shared understanding on the importance of universal health coverage financing in developing countries. These two, along with Mr. Asakawa's longstanding focus on domestic resource mobilization, will now be particularly helpful in the post-COVID-19 recovery in the Asia and Pacific region, as well as beyond. This symposium's focus on digitization has implications for all the 3 areas as well. Let me now request President Masa to deliver his opening keynote speech, please. President Masa, over to you.
Thank you, Ramesh. Your Excellency Minister Sri Mulyani, Minister Nadim Anwar Makarim, Vice Ministers and senior officials, representatives from the private sector, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the Asian Development Bank's Southeast Asia Development Symposium. This is the very first of what will be an annual event to provide government officials in Southeast Asia and other stakeholders with a wide range of cutting-edge perspectives on critical development issues. The symposium complements ADB's ongoing work to support our developing member countries in making the transition to prosperous, knowledge-based, and sustainable economies. We convene at a time when the region is still grappling with the coronavirus disease pandemic. The impact on human health and well-being, livelihood, and economic activity have been truly painful. At the same time, the pandemic has accelerated digitalization, which is transforming the way we communicate, work, learn, and live. Accordingly, this year's symposium is focusing on how Southeast Asia can utilize digital technology to mitigate the impacts of the pandemic and lay the groundwork for long-term economic recovery. Today's event features a dynamic lineup of speakers and panelists from governments, the private sector, academia, and development organizations who will share their insights on this important topic. To provide context for this symposium, I would like to begin by describing how ADB has responded to the COVID-19 crisis by supporting the active use of digital technology. Then I will briefly present our 5 key policy areas that I do believe countries in Southeast Asia should strongly consider as they pave the way for a speedy recovery and prepare for a sustainable future built upon the increased and innovative uses of technology. When the COVID-19 crisis hit, ADB responded quickly with a $20 billion assistance package to support our developing members as they address the crisis and prepare for a new normal. Our package consists of 3 pillars, all of which incorporate digital technology in order to enhance effectiveness. Under the first pillar, ADB quickly provided grant support and technical assistance to our developing member countries to meet their immediate needs for purchasing critical medical equipment and supplies, and to support the distribution of food and daily necessities to the most vulnerable populations. For example, when Metro Manila was locked down under strict quarantine restrictions in April this year, ADB, in partnership with the government and private sector, provided grant support to deliver food to 162,000 households. Our use of mobile technology facilitated prompt procurement and payment for supplies, which increased the efficiency of our operations. Under the second pillar of ADB's COVID-19 assistance, we are providing fast disbursing countercyclical funding to help our member governments implement emergency programs and prepare for recovery. In Southeast Asia, ADB provided $5 billion through our new financing modality called the COVID-19 Pandemic Response Option, or CIPRO, to support government's effort to strengthen healthcare systems, increase social assistance to the poor and vulnerable, and provide economic stimulus to businesses, including small and medium enterprises. As we provide this budget support, we have stressed the importance of digital solutions for mitigating the spread of the pandemic and ensuring the speedy and transparent disbursement of social assistance. For example, in Makassar, Indonesia, a project supported by ADB and the Asean Australia Smart Cities Trust Fund is enabling officials to utilize digital technology to map the spread of COVID-19 and to overlay this information with geo-located data on poverty, population density, access to basic services, and vicinity to transportation hubs. These tools are ensuring a more targeted distribution of protective equipment and other disease mitigation measures. And ADB's third pillar of assistance is providing substantial support to the private sector, including about $1.7 billion to rejuvenate trade and supply chains, support enhanced microfinance and guarantees for liquidity-starved businesses, and maintain employment. ADB's trade finance program and supply chain finance programs have developed a new interactive mapping tool that allows governments, banks, investors, and healthcare professionals to pinpoint which products are vital to healthcare and other frontline workers. In these and many other ADB operations, we are seeing the tremendous role that digital technology can play in securing new solutions to the challenges facing communities and businesses during the pandemic and beyond. I will now discuss 5 key policy areas that developing economies in Southeast Asia should consider. These measures can help countries return to a path leading to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Once again, I firmly believe that digital technology will play an indispensable role. First, it is important that countries address regional disparities and ensure more equitable access to technology. For this, we must close the digital divide and expand existing investments in digital infrastructure by building more and higher quality mobile broadband infrastructure and ensuring affordable internet access and coverage. These steps can also enhance access to basic social services such as health and education and access to financial services. These investments will better equip countries to address the worsening income inequality and disparities in opportunities brought about by the pandemic. At the same time, the governments, businesses, and individuals have to enhance cybersecurity to ensure that investments in digital infrastructure have their desired effect. A second policy issue is to facilitate green and resilient recovery. This will require promoting investments that drive economic activity towards low carbon and resilient practices. We can accelerate these efforts by investing in digital technology. For example, intelligent transportation system can support real-time traffic control and transport routing systems to manage congestion and reduce air pollution. Smart grid systems are also helping to secure a more efficient energy supply. As a third priority, countries should seize the opportunities that renewed globalization can offer in a post-pandemic new normal by strengthening regional cooperation and integration. Stronger cross-border digital connectivity, e-customs systems, and electronic cargo tracking systems can all make important contributions. Regional cooperation can also help build resilience against health security risks. ADB supports building a stronger regional disease surveillance system to contain the threat of future pandemics. Fourth, countries need to strengthen their institutional capacity for mobilizing domestic resources so that they are in a better position to finance public services while ensuring debt sustainability. The introduction of revenue administration management information systems in many of ADB's developed member economies is leading to efficiency improvement in tax filing and processing, and an increase in tax yields. The use of satellite imagery and information systems is helping local governments monitor economic activity so that they can better assess property taxes. Last, to support all of the measures I described, countries should vigorously incubate, develop, and congregate small and medium enterprises with entrepreneurship and technology. To this end, it is imperative for countries to help aggregate a financial, academic, and business ecosystem that can create a cutting-edge industrial base where SME congregate, just like Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, and Kyoto. Doing so will help set the stage for technology-based growth of the future, and it will position Southeast Asia for a new digital age of prosperity. For our part, ADB established ADB Ventures in January this year. I believe ADB Venture will help technology startups in Southeast Asia scale up and deploy their technology solutions for the key policy areas that I mentioned earlier. To conclude, let me emphasize my optimism that digital technology can serve as a linchpin in Southeast Asia's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Let us build on our existing efforts to mainstream digital technology use across sectors. I hope today's discussion will offer new and valuable perspectives on addressing the immense challenges we face as we continue our work together towards a prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable future for Southeast Asia. So thank you again for joining us, and I wish all of you a good health.
Thank you so much, President Asakawa, for sharing your ideas and insights this morning, which will be very helpful as we have the panel ahead of us today. And also the thoughts will be quite helpful as the region looks ahead for recovery from COVID-19. We are delighted that our next speaker is Indonesia's Finance Minister and also ADB Governor, Excellency Dr. Sri Mulyani Indrawati. Minister Sri Mulyani has been named several times as the best Minister of Finance, as well as the best minister in the world. Minister, with your permission, I want to very quickly share how we are always very forward-looking. In early 2005, in the immediate aftermath of the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami, when you were the National Planning Minister in Indonesia before you became the Finance Minister, you had asked development partners to look for innovative and high technology solutions to help countries like Indonesia prepare better for natural disasters. That motivated us, for instance, to include technology-related components in ADB-supported projects in infrastructure, as well as other areas as microfinance, education in ACE and NIAS, for instance, as well as subsequently. All these are so important today as we look ahead to post-pandemic recovery. And as we look ahead, particularly to digital-based solutions. It's my honor to invite you, Excellency Minister Sherie Mulyani, to give your keynote address. Minister Sherie Mulyani, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramesh, for a very generous introduction. Excellency Masatsugu Asakawa, President of Asian Development Bank, all other colleagues, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to all of you. Early this year, the COVID-19 pandemic occurs suddenly and unpredictably, unprecedented, and that has exposed us to health crisis like never happened before. As the virus is easily transmitted from human to human, almost all countries in the world have to take stringent measures such as social distancing and mobility restriction to contain the spread. The mobility restriction has been effective in preventing the spread of COVID, but resulted in high economic costs as well as business activity, which is restricted. Many people's life and livelihoods are affected severely. Although some business owners, they are able to seek refuge in digital world, and some business activity continue to survive despite the substantial decline in demand. This pandemic underscored the importance of technology, especially digital technology, as a critical enabling tool in this time of health crisis. COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the digitalization process and transformed the way we live, we learn, and earn a living. Technology has helped many of us survive in this challenging situation. Social distancing implemented has pushed many companies, people, and the government to be creative and utilizing technology, such as implementing remote working, online schooling, and e-commerce. Technology has provided us with multiple possibilities through various innovation platforms and tools, applications to make our life easier, especially during this pandemic. Technology development reshaped industries, restructured market, and redefine competitive advantage. It is not immediately clear who the winners and losers will be, or the role of the policymaker can play in fostering inclusive growth driven by this technological change. Some degree of consensus exists on the potential large-scale impact of emerging technology in both advanced and developing economy. Each country has a unique mix of economic structure and area of specialization. Its firms participate in activity within global value chains and use technology at varying level of sophistication. As such, the impact of new technology will differ in different countries and in their various economic sectors. For policymakers, the challenge is to understand the policy responses that are required to reap the benefit of new technologies while anticipating any associated risk. It is crucial that we have sound information based on robust research. This will enable us to understand the impact of new technologies and to devise and implement effective policy. Our policy making must be founded on solid knowledge and forecasts that help us identify where opportunity and which investment can spur growth. We need to consider those affected in the process, and those who lose in this transformation. The CSIS research suggests that only 1 from 5 jobs could shift to technology-based. The remaining could not. Thus, while supporting digitalization, we need to consider those 4 jobs who could not change to technology-based and provide platform or mechanism for them to keep up with this transformation. On the user side, digital divide, as mentioned also by President Asakawa, is still huge, especially in developing economy or a country as large as Indonesia with a variety of access to the internet. Internet access is still a luxury for some people or some region. This has significantly limited the benefit and success of its application for public service delivery. For example, while online learning has been conducted to accommodate student needs during the social distancing period, not all students have the access to internet or mobile devices. Some even are digitally illiterate, making them prone to experiencing losses in education during the pandemic. Many micro and small businesses, particularly in the remote area, are not yet engaged with technology because of the internet access gap. These are kinds of problems that are still faced by a lot of ASEAN countries. While we know that we should take advantage of the momentum provided by this crisis, we also must work harder to fill the divide. Looking at the huge shock we face for this pandemic, our investment in this area are crucial to equip us with better resilience in the future. Like many other countries, Indonesia digital transformation has rapidly accelerated, particularly since the imposition of the large-scale social restriction policy at the onset of this COVID-19 outbreak. We provided, in order for us to narrow the digital divide, many of the government support for the internet access. We provided first for the electricity subsidy for the 40% bottom of the population, and provided internet free for students, teachers, as well as higher education. These are all trying to provide the facility which has become a backbone during this COVID-19 pandemic. We also put critical support for micro and small medium enterprises in transition and implementing digital transformation to ensure its ability in adapting to the new business model. To this end, the government of Indonesia has developed a number of initiatives to better equip the country in addressing opportunity and challenges arising from emerging technologies. The government of Indonesia, through Ministry of Communication and Information, has launched 1,000 startups movement that encourage the emergence of new IT-based startups until 2024. For the next stage of their business development, the government has launched the CORN program to seek potential startup to receive financing. We also provide at the highest stage of their development, the government provides full support for unicorn and decacorn through its supporting human resource development program, as well as regulatory and infrastructure development. For this infrastructure development, we are committed to improve connectivity across the country. Indonesia is a huge archipelago country. And to accelerate the development of our digital economy, last year, we have reached another milestone in our connectivity development when we finished building a Palapa ring broadband project using public-private partnership scheme. A 35,000 kilometer long fiber optic network spanning throughout the archipelago. This broadband data network supports not only high quality data exchange for communication purpose, but also to deliver a quality of education and health services content throughout the country. Our next in line, we will continue to build Satria-1 multi-function satellite. This is the high throughput satellite, also using public-private partnership scheme. The Minister of Finance supporting with all fiscal tools in order to make this project happen. This telecommunication infrastructure development becoming a very critical and strategic for our digital transformation. The project would hopefully allow Indonesia's citizens equal and affordable access to high-speed internet. On the other hand, our structural reform focus on improving productivity and competitiveness, reinvigorating industrialization, and nurturing innovation. As a finance minister, I also make sure that the local government spending on the internet will be allocated through the earmark. These are all to make sure that they can access all the infrastructure which is becoming available to the whole area of Indonesia. Our policy to drive reform, including digitalization and innovation, are reflected on 2021 next year's state budget. The big theme of our policy is accelerating economic recovery from COVID and strengthening reform. We are not going to waste this COVID-19 crisis. So we accelerate reform even faster. The fiscal deficit for next year was set at 5.7% of GDP. This is especially to accommodate many priorities, including supporting the recovery process, but most importantly, in ICT investment. For the ICT sector development, the government expanded our budget support to $2 billion from its 2021 budget. We also use the state budget to push for more connectivity. There are still 12,000 more villages which is not yet connected. So we are targeted 4,000 villages and sub-districts in Indonesia in the outermost and least developed frontier to be connected for next year. To realize this goal, to be more digitalized and to keep up with the industry 4.0, we will make sure that infrastructure will reach to the most remote area. Finally, in driving forward our digitalization effort, the urgency of bridge digital divide should be continuously resonated on the world stage. And I'm glad that the ADB is also committed to do that. Stronger cooperation has to be promoted as COVID-19 brings a lot of economic disruption that can only be corrected quickly through synergy and collaboration. We have to ensure that countries around the world and all of its people can get fairer opportunity in taking the benefit of digitalization. It is equally important to continue balancing the level of digital playing field, that's including through a sound and fair taxation policy, which Indonesia always resound and support on this global stage. I'm glad ADB also is going to pay attention on this taxation area, and we will working together at the G20 as well as OECD in order for us to be able to establish a good practice on a global taxation policy that's fair for all countries. In closing, I would like to convey my appreciation again to ADB for hosting this event and look forward for it to come up with internationally policy recommendation or any initiative that can be adopted by member countries of ADB in supporting their technological transformation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister Sherie Mulyani, for those very comprehensive and very insightful remarks. You covered a lot of ground, including the need for focusing on having a solid knowledge base on risks and particularly looking at the vulnerable segments of the population, digital divide and the level playing field and human development at a broader level, and a number of other very important issues. Thank you so much for participating and sharing your insights. Our next speaker of the morning is Ms. Sherie Nung, Microsoft's General Manager for Public Sector in the Asia and Pacific region. Sherie has over 25 years of experience in the high technology environment across banking and finance, telecommunications, government, and the oil and gas industries, performing management and global leadership roles, largely in business and organizational transformation. Sherie now spearheads Microsoft's businesses and partnerships with public sector institutions across the APAC region, and she champions the company's social impact engagements. It's now my great pleasure to invite Sherie to offer her keynote address this morning. Sherie, over to you.
Thank you, Ramesh. Good morning, President Asakawa-san, Your Excellency Minister Sri Mulyani, distinguished government dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm speaking about digital innovation and its impact on economic recovery. Often in the case of human affairs, the greatest lessons on innovation emerge from the most devastating times. At a time of crisis, the evolving needs drive rapid shift in mindsets that play out as greater willingness to try new things and to collaborate. COVID-19 is one such crisis. We're seeing some of the greatest innovation at unprecedented speed. Satya said, the world has witnessed 2 years of digital transformation in just 2 months. In this pandemic, Microsoft acted as the digital first responder, supporting more than 800 organizations to transform in days. We saw a drastic shift to remote everything and contactless transaction. Organizations big and small embrace digital for business and operational continuity. In just days, we brought education online through Teams and Azure for millions of students in Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and the list goes on and on for remote learning. In Asia, we work with more than 22 major healthcare providers to rapidly bring telehealth services, and healthcare boards to cope with the surge in demand. Government institutions leveraged on digital to deliver coordinated crisis response, contact tracing, disbursement of stimulus packages, and quickly spin off hundreds of e-citizen services. We partnered with New Zealand Justice to bring the entire justice court system virtually so that we can practice court hearings online. In just days, business across every industry from retail, gaming, banking, turn up applications, automate their entire supply chain, leverage on digital and AI to personalize offer and optimized operations. While COVID-19 will cause, no doubt, a significant economic impact with potential GDP contractions in 2020-2021, but for the long-term fundamentals, the ASEAN state members predict that we are on the curve of a tremendous leap forward in socio-economic progress. The pandemic has brought about the new consumer. See, COVID-19 led some of the oldest consumers to make their first online purchases. Many enjoyed the convenience of home delivery. For some, you tried for the first time telehealth consultation or made the first e-payment attempt. Younger consumers, of course, demonstrated the greatest resilience and ease to switch to digital presence. This is the first step towards a change in channel preference. Bain's Consulting latest research unveiled that there are 8 shifts in consumer habit. Just to name a few, shoppers will move from beyond just omni-channel to expect an omnipresence experience. Convenience will be the new currency. In the research, it shows that sustainability will be non-negotiable for the new consumer. See, as we stand between the chasm of the pandemic and the recovery, government has obligations to empower their society with digital infrastructure and framework to stimulate economic recovery and capitalize on this new opportunity. The role of digital innovation has never been more urgent. To succeed, organization needs to empower employees to foster a new culture of work, engage customers in new ways, intelligently and virtually, transform products and services with a new business model, optimize operations to keep customer and employees safe and secure. In the center of this digital arena lies data and intelligence. We say that data is the new electricity, and we want organizations around the world to have the ability to leverage data to do 4 things. 1, transform products. Mantra, one of the fastest growing e-retailer in India, onboarded hundreds of thousands of customers daily onto Azure, fulfilling about 240,000 sales events each day, scaled 450,000 users, and they leverage AI and cognitive services to be able to personalize recommendations for every single user. Number 2, optimized operations. In the seasons, we saw how we empowered the Philippine Supreme Court with the ability to hold digital proceeding, which resulted in freeing more than 60,000 previously detained persons, all done in the season of social distancing on a digital platform. Number 3, engage customer. This is very exciting. This is an example of an organization that not just changed the way they engage customer, but change and transform how a country will engage customer and citizens. We partnered with Italian Post to create what we call ecosystem platform for SMEs, allowing SME to fully digitize their business. In just a few steps, SME can quickly equip themselves with the technology they need to manage their business digitally, allowing them to grow and continue to reach new consumers. And lastly, empower employees. We see this a lot in the manufacturing industry, how they've been embracing contactless model, full automation across the value chain, experimenting with IoT, AI, digital twin, and mixed reality for remote view experience. Honeywell integrated with Railware to bring situational awareness to their first-line worker with hands-free voice control experience while streaming the entire session live to their remote experts. There is in the season an equal opportunity for every individual, enterprises small or large, to access digital technologies with cloud. As organizations execute on their digital agenda, we see 4 essential pillars. We call it the 4S. Number 1, scale and speed of digitization. Cloud allows democratization of digital, and the biggest benefit accrue to faster time to market, simplified innovation, easier scalability, and reduced. Never has it been easier for companies of all sizes to build applications leveraging on AI to see, hear, speak, search, understand, and accelerate decision-making by the machines. Power Platforms allows people to code and develop applications, enabling citizen developers to rapidly innovate and even adopt the full suite of communications and cognitive capabilities embedded into every applications. Technology not only affects how business will perform, but also how economies will function. Government around the world need to provide the core digital infrastructure. Very pleased to hear today from President as well as the Minister how you're accelerating digital adoption for all major industries to enhance value creation and prosperity. Number 2, digital skills. We will be returning to a very different economy, a very different world, which demand technical skills and competencies such as data scientists, cloud architects, AI engineers, social marketers. We firmly believe in democratizing digital skills for every individual to participate in this new economy. Microsoft recently launched our global skill initiatives to avail all our Microsoft Learned, LinkedIn, as well as GitHub content for government and partner institutions to equip their citizens, employees, and students, including those in the low bandwidth environment. A very good example, we partnered with Grab, on this initiative called Tech for Good. The initiative is dedicated to their drivers, merchant partner communities, and families to equip them with the skill sets that is needed to participate in the new economy. With this program, very happy to announce that we've actually upskilled more than 500,000 drivers, leading to 350,000 certifications just in Indonesia and Vietnam alone. We also joined forces with ASEAN Foundation to provide inclusive computer science educations to children, aim at enabling about 46,000 underserved youth. Thirdly, you hear a lot about cybersecurity, cyber breaches, wholesale theft of health records, attacks aimed at destruction of undermining reputation and trust of state. When we think about cybersecurity going forward, we need to think about it more extensively. Our tracking of the COVID-19 theme attacks show us how rapidly cyber criminals are moving to adapt to their lures of the topics of the day. In just 4 months, we saw more than 900,000 spam messages, hundreds of incidents related to malwares, 48,000 malicious URL, all related to COVID-19 as detected by Interpol partners. It's always harder to be in the defense than offense. Offense is innovating fast, and the problem is really not just with technology, but also the interactions between human and machine. Organizations today needs to work together to protect the environment as well as to enhance trust. We say in Microsoft that organization must adopt a proactive risk management approach, invest in building a cyber resilient culture, and shape the entire cybersecurity strategy on a zero trust model. A zero trust model is more holistic, enabling us to ensure that we never trust and always verify, ensuring that every access is strongly authenticated, authorized, and inspected before granting access. And lastly, number 4, the 4S, sustainability. You and I have a great responsibility to provide and protect, our most finite resources, the planet. Early this year, Microsoft announced our environmental sustainability strategy. We pledged to be carbon negative, water positive, zero waste by 2030. And by 2025, we hope to restore more land than we used. We've also dedicated $1 billion in Carbon Innovation Fund in new technologies and solutions to address sustainability issues. At the same time, we also put out grants called AI for Earth to support organizations who is going to use AI to change the way people and organization monitor, model, and manage Earth's natural resources. Earlier this year, very happy to say that we announced the sustainability calculator to allow every organization to have an ability to track their carbon emission, but more importantly, with advanced AI and analytics capability to provide very actionable insight on how you can reduce emission and ability to simplify the carbon reporting. At the same time, we're also looking to build the planetary computer, allowing us to have interconnected environmental data and tools to help scientists around the world better monitor and manage the planet's natural resources. In closing, I would say at Microsoft, we see this transformation wave as what we call purpose-driven digital, using tech innovation to drive not just business progress, but more importantly, societal outcome for common good. We're standing on an amazing opportunity to look to the decades ahead and put the best of digital technology to work, to protect people's fundamental rights, to preserve that trust in technology and advanced environmental sustainability while driving a more inclusive economic recovery. With this, I want to thank ADB for giving us that opportunity to partner in this purpose-driven mission and to collaborate for common good. Super excited to look forward to partner on what the future holds for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherie, for those very interesting and insightful remarks, and particularly the focus on what you mentioned as the 4 S's, as well as what you're doing to improve governance and public administration in the pandemic era. Thank you so much. Now, the last speaker for this morning's session is Mr. Kylie Nong, Managing Partner at 500 Startups, a Silicon Valley-based venture capital firm. At 500 Startups, Kylie has led more than 180 investments in Southeast Asian tech startups, including Grab, Carousel, and other regional champions. Prior to this, Kylie was the founder of GroupsMore, which was acquired by Groupon, and Malaysia's largest online media company, SEADS.com. I've been really looking forward to hearing Kylie for some time. So without further ado, let me invite Kylie to the session, please. Kylie, over to you.
Ramesh, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Good morning, everyone, and attendees today at ADB SEADS 2020. Your Excellency, Minister Sri Mulyani, and President Masatsugu Asakawa as well. And thanks so much, Sherie, as well, for what you shared earlier. I'll think a little bit about that zero trust policy tonight, and see what that means. But so I'm going to jump right into it. There's one thing that is completely beautiful about having a virtual symposium, because on a call like this, we have intimacy as though we just dialed in on a one-on-one Zoom call. So if this is okay with you, I'll speak just like it's just you and me. Okay, just you and me. We can lean in and let's have a real talk. Now, why is this really important? It's because we know we face the gravity of what's happening here today, but we all want to know what we can do. What is it we can do today? Now, with that, I have 3 simple messages that can guide each of the audiences to translate what our speakers before us can take, right, for them to actually do something together. Now, the first message is a simple one. The challenges ahead are far too great for the public sector or the private sector alone to handle. Contemplating this simple sentence for a second, we realize that the world as interconnected as this is causing each of us to suffer or feel like we're lacking in something, because our neighbors, our customers, our investors, everyone is suffering together. If you remember maybe some point in your career, where in a company you have a team building exercise and the facilitator had to make up some fake challenge that you had to go through together. And then all we have to find ways to work together, bust across the silos. This is right. Humanity is in a giant team building exercise with a real challenge. So with that in mind, I find the role of venture capital as a fellow financier, just like the ADB, sandwiched in the middle. Like for myself, as 500 Startups, like my firm, we are not only representing a very large group of the private sector. We've invested in 2,400 companies in 76 countries. That means there are 5,000 entrepreneurs who are part of this. But at the same time, the money we manage, they're from sovereign wealth funds, they're from pensions, they represent insurance. So we need both sides to win. So for all the venture capital and startup folks tuning into this conference, we have a job to do as well. And I want to show you the kind of things that we can actually do to help. Now, with knowing the importance of this and the fact that we have to work together, the second message I have is about how I've observed 5 engines of existing public-private collaboration. And while this term, PPPs or public-private partnerships, may be familiar to governments, for all the private sector folks on the call, let's just observe what we were doing before COVID. The public sector has a lot of services they provide to serve people, and so does private sector and companies as well. That's engine number 1. What I observe as engine number 2 is what I think Ibu Sri Mulyani mentioned earlier, where the public sector is understanding what kind of policies will serve the private sector or incentivize the private sector to serve people in a more meaningful and impactful way. Now, engine number 3 is something that is very new, especially in the world of tech startups, where some companies like Palantir or others have been proactive about going to governments and say, hey, dear government, here are things I can do to help you operationalize and digitize so you can serve the people more efficiently. So this is engine number 3. But let's tune in to something more exciting than this, which is engine number 4. where public sector and private sector come together and invent a new way to serve people. And I like to call upon an example from Indonesia. A portfolio company we have called Sherie. They have IoT for fish farmers. The Indonesian government had reached out to them and said, hey, let's create 20 smart fish villages together. Let's just leapfrog a few of these villages into IR 4.0, like that. And they've started to roll out about 11 of these fish villages, and the fish farmers' income, some of them have actually tripled as a result of this joint initiative. What starts off as just 20 pilot villages can be a model for many other villages across Indonesia. And this comes from a cooperation, a proactive cooperation for both public and private sector to serve people. And there are many examples like this. Now, the fifth engine, which is super interesting, is when you enable people to serve people. Again, more examples from Indonesia. We have companies in our portfolio like iGrow, where people are lending money to farmers to actually farm, to produce a kind of like agricultural products that help with food security, especially in a time like this. And they have already facilitated loans of double-digit millions US dollars in just the past 2 years. There are also other examples from Indonesia like Kita Bisa, where during the height of COVID, on a daily basis, peer-to-peer crowdfunding of social support, we're doing an average of 500,000 US dollars a day of people helping people. This engine number 5, decentralization and peer-to-peer, can be a huge force for nation building. Now, we look at this visual of all the engines combined and how a country is functioning now. Digitization is enabling or supercharging the way all these 5 engines work together. And I really just wanted to show this visual for various folks in private sector or public sector to see that, hey, there's so many things we can do together. And again, to give just a few more examples that across not just Indonesia, of course, but other countries in Southeast Asia, Bukalapak, an Indonesian company and a unicorn, has 5.5 million offline agents taking digitization services, working hand in hand with the government to roll them out all the way to the edges of Indonesia. But also from Singapore, we have like ventures actually created from the Port Authority of Singapore. There's a company called Holio in our portfolio. They were incubated by the government and spun out or ushered out into the world, where we also invested in to digitize ports. So you can have the one belt, one road on a digital platform. And in Malaysia, we've got government-linked corporations like Petronas, working hand in hand with venture capital firms like 500 to invest and co-invest in solar, co-investing in agri-tech companies. Today, as I speak before you, these engines of collaboration are at unprecedented levels. Each one of us on this call can do something. And this brings me to the last point I have today, which is, with these engines in mind of public-private collaboration, how do we accelerate them? I'd like to offer a focal point. There are many things we can do, but let's focus on one thing. And it's so relevant to ADB and also for firms like us as well. It's about financing. The key to unlock a lot of the innovators is to provide financing for the innovators. Now, why do I pinpoint financing as a focal point? You can just look all over LinkedIn. You browse around, the profiles there, hashtag ready to work. So many professionals are ready to work. We have entrepreneurs, really active government officials. I have friends in various governments. They are working even harder than the entrepreneurs, like into the night, trying to super busy, trying to work. And we, at the same time, we've got printed money for hands out, bailouts, but we don't want to have change makers also to be left out. We want the change makers, the innovators, and these handful of efforts which have 80-20 outside returns to be adequately resourced. And this focal point I have, and it's a very quick story, okay? Some people say, oh, we need more budgets, we need more money. I actually disagree. This snapshot I have here in this photo is from 2018 New York General Assembly. I was in a very similar panel with different finance ministers and also investment banks who had a lot of money dedicated for impact investing. So I asked, hey, do you think this is a funding issue? Why everyone feels like there's a funding gap? They call it a funding gap, but it's not. The funders were there and say, hey, we have the money, but where are the companies? The social enterprises, too small, not scalable enough. All these unicorns, all profit seeking, they're not mindful of the impact they can make. So they claim it's a pipeline issue. And just like the examples I shared from Indonesia today, Bukalapak, iGrow, Kita Bisa, and so much more. I told them these real examples. Their eyes were wide open. They're like, wow, can you introduce them to me, please? So with that in mind, I think that unlocking financing is not a question of more budgets. The question is of discovering each other. And for impact investing as a theme, that project is underway. But I think we're leaping a little bit too fast. And this is a challenge I throw down to myself as well as a leader in venture capital. I believe that ESG is a very easy starting point for all of us to get involved. Why? It is an established framework that multiple trillions of asset allocators in the world understand. It is a framework that fund managers across the world understand. Yet, the tech startup industry, for all of its speed, is the slowest to adopt ESG. In fact, I would dare say they have largely ignored ESG on the path of seeking the next round of financing. And to me, this is a very big problem. Why? Because they are the innovators. They need to provide metrics to actually help the asset allocators see the impact that's actually being created. And for us at 500, we lead by example. The first thing we did, we said, hey, let's get our head of global investor relations and our director of all communications and marketing, as well as our ESG person, to be the same person. We hunted around the world and we got that person a year ago, and it has really shaped wonders for our leadership within our firm. They have to be the same person. Next thing we did, we reached out to LPs. We didn't wait for them to formulate their ESG policies and then come to the fund managers. We reached out to all of them and said, hey, look, if you are like speaking about ESG with stakeholders, what's your journey like? Let's collaborate closely with how you want to map things so we can make it practical. Third thing we did, the startups. We have a platform here on 500.co/ESG. We created frameworks for ESG for even idea stage startups. And the startups were shocked. They're like, hey, isn't ESG for like really big companies? Like, I'm just a small little company. ESG is not for me. We're like, no, this is the best time. You're at your seed stage of formulating your future. Install the intention. We've got these easy policies and just documents, get it started. And I'm proud to say that we've even integrated this in our latest set of funds to be a criteria in our investment decision-making about their ESG policies. I'm so proud. In just past 6 or 7 months, we had 75 startups say, yes, I'm going to do this. And they have installed ESG policies as part of investment criteria. And this might seem like, like a small example, but this is like something that historically has not been very prevalent in the tech startup industry. So I'm very, very proud of that. Now, with that in mind, like the experiments is not mine and ours alone as a venture capital industry. It's up to us to also reach out beyond people we don't normally work with. Here's an example from the United Nations Development Program. And pardon the rest of the countries, there's so many Indonesian examples. It's just that my wife and I live in Indonesia for 4 years, so I have a lot of examples here. So over here, we have a collaboration with UNDP Indonesia, where we took 9 Indonesian startups who are making collectively $30 million of revenue. And we said, look, let's install some impact metrics. Let's put ESG installation in, and let's bring you to Singapore to talk to the money people. We took them there, 100 money asset allocators from family office, impact funds, all the way to commercial funds, got to see these 9 Indonesian startups, not just from a money standpoint, but impact standpoint. And I'm so happy that between each of these 9 Indonesian startups, they secured 15 to 20 meetings on that day alone. And some of them have resulted with real financing deals. And these are the last 1 or 2 examples, and I'm going to kind of close up on the points here, is that we're an experiment that's happening live now of the World Economic Forum. 500 startups, World Health Organization, and World Economic Forum, we banded together to say, look, let's get more innovators involved with the COVID-19 challenges. We used a platform called Uplink, right, to source a lot of these challenges from around the world and make sure that they are discovered by asset allocators and leaders of the world. And so this process is still ongoing, and it's yielding a lot of great results. Now, the last experiment is in motion as well, is that the traditional fund strategies that asset allocators and fund managers like ourselves have done was based on the old world and the old economy of predictable, expected good times. That's changed. We're going to need new strategies. We're going to need very focused strategies. And I really want to applaud the Asian Development Bank's ADB Ventures, because they have a lot of very specific, purpose-driven strategies on how to allocate capital, from everything from future food, very thematic ways of approaching it. And for us, I think that is the way to go. These experiments that we do with asset allocators require new strategies to finance the innovators to do the things that are required right now. In summary, point number one was the challenges ahead are too great for the public sector or the private sector alone to handle. Point number two, there are 5 engines of public-private collaboration. Let's accelerate them. Point number 3 is that the key to unlocking this is to finance the innovators. Impact is a journey. ESG is a good starting point. And there's so much more for us to do. Thank you so much, each of you, for dialing in on this call today, in this symposium, especially for your audience, Your Excellency Sherie Mulyani, as well as President Masa, Sherie, and Ramesh. Let us finance the next generation of innovators together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kylie, for a fascinating presentation and the link between the people at the base of the pyramid and what you called as the money people. Totally true. And also the focus on ESG. So we will definitely look at what Sherie and Kylie you have shared. Thanks so much. And also wish to thank once again President Asakawa, Ibu Sherie Mulyani, Sherie Nung, and Kylie Nong for a fascinating overview session. You presented a very wide and rich canvas of ideas that the first panel and the subsequent sessions today can take up. Greatly appreciate you spending the time with us. There are over 620 people tuned in and listening, and we anticipate a large number of people turning up also for the other sessions. We will now proceed straight to the first panel discussion on a new normal, driving economic recovery through digital innovation. Minister of Education and Culture of Indonesia, Excellency Nadiem Anwar Makarim, will participate here. He will be joined by Ambassador Ted Osius, Google's Vice President for Government Affairs and Public Policy in APAC. Mimi Alameyahu, MasterCard Senior Vice President for Public-Private Partnership, and Sherie and Kylie will both join the panel, along with ADB Vice President, Mr. Ahmed Saeed. This is going to be a very lively conversation, so please do join. This panel will be moderated by CNBC Catalyst's Ms. Lisa Oak, so please do join. Thank you all so much once again for joining this opening session, and greatly appreciate again the 4 speakers. Thank you all so much.